Well, it is time for our monthly interview with Mayor Scott Gillingham, who is in studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Marcy.
So let's start actually with something in the news this morning. I know you did respond to this yesterday, but this new provincial legislation that's going to make it tougher to overrule city land use decisions. So for the sake of our listeners who might have missed the story, what it basically means is if you want to trigger a hearing about something that's being developed, you before needed 25 signatures in the city of Winnipeg, that is, and now that increases to 300 signatures. I know that you've commented that this could speed up developments that are important developments and housing developments in some cases as well. Is that the main reason why you're applauding this?
I am. Currently, before this legislation, yes, 25 signatures was all that was needed to take a decision that council had made to take that to the municipal board. That's a very low threshold. And so there were many projects that council had approved that the public, through 25 signatures, took to the municipal board. What that did is it really slowed things down because the municipal board then has this lineup of hearings and appeals that they need to hear. And in the meantime, we need development to happen. We need more housing. And so this is a good decision, I believe, by the province of Manitoba, and I really support them changing the threshold from 25 to 300 signatures. So the public will still have the opportunity to appeal. They just need 300 signatures to get something to the municipal board instead of 25.
Of course, there's multiple perspectives on this. So to look at it from the other point of view, there may be someone listening saying, but in my block of Winnipeg, this development's going to affect me and my neighbors. There are 25 of us. So they may feel it's unfair, that they need 300 signatures now. They may be thinking, now what do I do? Do I have to campaign sort of street to street to street if I have a concern about something? What would you say to that concern?
In some cases, yes, people are going to need to go further to get more signatures. But for example, when I was a city councillor in my last term, there was a project with about 150 to close to 200 units that were proposed. I believed it was a very good project. That project was overturned by the municipal board, and it was 25, 30 people that overturned that project. And at the time, there was no requirement for those people to live in the area either. And so there's still an appeal process. Things can still go to the municipal board. It just takes more signatures to get there.
I want to read you something here. This is on another story. This is a quote. The quote is, a working group is set to start as early as next month to plan to move rail lines out of the city of Winnipeg. The group, which will include Canadian Pacific Railway and Canadian national officials, will put together a detailed study to submit to federal officials, as is required under federal transport laws. End quote. That was from one of our CBC reports 10 years ago. This is something we've been studying since the 60s. I wonder why you support studying relocation of the rail yards at Henry and Higgins, which was announced this week yet again. And I think my point with that is we have all of this data already. If this is something that's desired, should we not be at a different point in the process?
You would think so. And that's a fair point because you're right, Marcy. Rail relocation in Winnipeg has been studied many times and for years. What we need now, though, is we need current information. We need current costs. We need also to understand the impact on jobs, the impact on rail operations. But I'm really hoping what can happen with this study is that we could look at some incremental steps, some of what it may be possible in the short term. For example, in the Winnipeg's north end, there's a rail line that runs 9 kilometers. It crosses. There's 30 crossings in residential streets, and it's only the city of Winnipeg is the only one that uses it. And so, is that a possibility? Can we look at some of these spur lines that are underutilized, or lines that are not well used? Can we start there? Can those be transformed into places where housing or active transportation pathways could be put in place? So we're really looking at what is the art of the possible here and what could be done, and can we look at some incremental steps?
Have we looked before? I know in the past when we've reported on this, and we've looked at it in totality because you're talking about needing multiple layers of approvals. There's remediation of the land afterward. There's funding agreements. But have we looked before at what you're talking about? It's sort of, could we start smaller to get things moving more quickly to free up some of the land?
I don't know the answer to that. That obviously is a good question. I don't know whether we have or not. I know that Dr. Axworthy's study will take at least 2 years. I think it'll be a comprehensive study. Looking forward to that. But as I said, I'm hoping that within that study, there are opportunities for incremental steps where we could start small.
Does this discussion about the rail yards coming up again and the study coming up again signal that there's no future for the Arlington Bridge?
No, because as I said, Dr. Axworthy's study is going to take at least 2 years. And then if it did say move forward and let's say, the federal government and the provincial government and the rail companies all wanted to move the yards, in the north end, that would take years and years and years. You mentioned remediation would be one of the things that would have to be done. So council is going to have to make a decision on the Arlington Bridge, sooner than 2 to 3 years from now. So those really at this point are not connected.
Same area, of course, in the Arlington connects north and south. So natural question flowing out of it. When do you expect we'll have an answer on Arlington? Because I think it was February where we were hoping to have an answer to how much it would cost and what the next steps are. And it remains closed. Is it closed another winter then, I guess?
It will be closed another winter. We should, as a council, be getting the information we've been looking for within the next few months here on the Arlington Bridge report.
I want to move to some concerns about Winnipeg's West End neighborhood, actually. We have a clip to play for you here. This is around Arlington and Ellis specifically. CBC reported this week in that immediate area, 3 businesses recently closed. Have a listen to what one area resident told our reporter Jim Agapito about it.
Andre Crate.
Can you tell me what you do in the area?
So I do work at a community center in the area, and I'm part of the employment program. So we help people find employment. We have community drop-in. We give out harm reduction. We have a really good greening team, housing grant team, everything like that. So
You look at the 3 businesses around Arlington and Ellis. They've all closed. How is that impacting the area?
it's kind of making it look like a very desolate area. Like 7-Eleven was a lot of business for people. So I think it's making people a little bit more withdrawn and kind of recluse. Doesn't really aesthetically pleasing for the neighborhood. It kind of looks run down and not taken care of. I've lived here for 17 years, so I think it's just nice to have businesses in the West End, employ people, have that opportunity to keep the neighborhood thriving.
So you can hear a story like this, and these might seem like small closures, but of course we know there's other 7-Eleven stores that are closing in Winnipeg. We had a list of actually businesses yesterday on the air that were closing, some of those due to retail crime specifically. But what are you most worried about regarding the situation plaguing many of our neighborhoods? And when you hear a resident saying it, makes you feel bad about where you live.
Yeah, no, I feel for that resident and any resident who's living in areas that are being described here, because when you lose a business in an area, it is a loss to the community without a doubt. But one of the things that I would mention as well is the retail crime initiative that has been launched, where we have the police working through provincial funding, has been showing progress. It has made a difference. You talk to retail merchants and outlets, they appreciate the difference it has made. In fact, the Retail Council of Canada locally is using Winnipeg's model right now all across Canada and is touting it as something that is working. Sometimes it's not working fast enough, as in the case probably that the clip we just played. I know, but I talked, for example, to Munther Zeed not that long ago, within the last couple of weeks, and he talked about the difference, the positive difference the
Grocery
retail
store
initiative,
owner, yeah.
Grocery store owner, thank you, yeah, a food fair. It's made a positive difference in his community. But 7-Eleven specifically, you'd have to talk to 7-Eleven as to all the reasons that they may be closing their stores. I note that for sure it could be theft. I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah.
I do note that 7-Eleven, I think, is closing 400 stores across North America right now as well, though.
Can we do something to strengthen initiatives, or what can the city do to help smaller businesses? That may be going through closures or having challenge specifically. Yesterday on the Retail Theft Initiative, we crunched the numbers for City of Winnipeg Police coming out to businesses and companies. And it was really noticeable that some larger groups, like Superstore was the example, can afford the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they have to spend on security and having a police officer there. Some smaller, mom and pop shops that are critical to these neighborhoods like we're hearing about, they can't afford that. So what initiatives could we put in place at that level to help those businesses stay safe and stay open?
Well, first of all, the Retail Crime Initiative is only temporary. I'd like to see it extended. I'd like to see it made permanent. The key to that is going to be, frankly, a new funding model for the City of Winnipeg from the province of Manitoba, because as a City of Winnipeg, we can and we should be taking policing on ourselves. Right now, the province is funding overtime for this Retail Crime Initiative, and it's overtime for police, but it's temporary. We need to make it permanent so that the smaller stores you're talking about that can't afford to hire special duty officers get police and get to foot patrol in their community. And the foot patrol, which is part of the retail crime initiative, has been very, very important.
It's like Osborne Village got.
Osborne Village, the downtown, it's made a big difference as well because those officers have the opportunity to build relationship with those store owners. So I'd like to see it made permanent, but to do that, I think it's really about a new funding model with the province of Manitoba for the city of Winnipeg.
I have a story out of the news I want to ask you about, and then a quick snapper. So let's do the snapper first. How close are we to announcing the new police chief?
Getting closer. I'm on the police board, and we're through. We're into the interview process. We'll be starting that pretty soon. But as a police, as mayor, I want to see a police chief who is a great collaborator with the province and tackles some of these issues like retail crime.
This month? Next month? Do you think?
I don't have a timeline on it. Yeah.
Okay. The issue in the news is the Winnipeg landlord that is talking about the reconsideration of the city around these fines, although they're still going up. If you own a property that has the firefighters have had to come out to and fight. Why is it fair if a landlord has proven and shown steps that they have boarded up to try to protect their property that they should have to foot the bill for fire coming out?
There are some property owners who are doing work. On their vacant and derelict buildings, but there are some, frankly, that have been sitting on vacant derelict buildings for a long time, and that's neighborhood blight. We need a combination of incentivizing those property owners to get their properties done, but then we also need to have penalties because those areas, those properties that continually are targeted for fire, that's a risk to the firefighters, it's a risk to the community, it's neighborhood blight. So we need a combination of that. A positive incentive, make it easier for people to develop. But on the other hand, when they just sit on their property and it's boarded up for months, years on end in some cases, and there's fires, I still believe we need penalties on those fires because there's a cost to the city of Winnipeg. And final comment is this: is if I own a piece of property and I have it boarded up for years on end, it shouldn't be fair, Marcy, that you as a taxpayer have to keep paying for the firefighters to show up and fight the fire at my property because I'm doing nothing with it.
You dressing up for Halloween this year?
I am not, but I will be handing out candy.
What are you going to hand out?
We hand out.
Do they know when they come to your house? Do they we're at the mayor's house? Do they know that?
Some of the neighbors do, I think, but some they're kids. They just want the candy. They don't. I don't think they care if it's the mayor or anyone else. But yeah, we look forward to it. It's fun.
Cut you off there. What are you handing out?
Chocolate bars.
Chocolate, yeah. We'll have to see this year. My street has changed. I think I've got more kids in the street we'll have to hand out as well. Thank you for being here. We'll talk to you next month.
Thank you.
Of course, we'll hear from the mayor before then, but our regular monthly interview will be coming up next month. Scott Gillingham has been in studio with us live on CBC.